Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fresh from the Studio. This is a special edition of our program. We're featuring four artists who are part of the San Marcos Studio Tour. This is the third year that the San Marcos Studio Tour is happening, and it's the first year that it's over 2 weekends. There's a kickoff party tomorrow night, Friday the 4th, and then the studio tour is this weekend, Saturday the 5th and 6th from 12 to 6, and then the following weekend, Saturday and Sunday, April 12th and 13th. We have coordinated with the San Marcos Studio Tour for a curated tour with these four artists, and we're very excited to see what they're working on and hope you'll see their work in person. We have Laurel Coyle, Sonya
Hello.
Eberhart, Ursula Rogers, and Jiya Shah today. And we're going to start with Laurel.
Hi. My name is Laurel Coyle, and I'm an artist out here in Lockhart, Texas. We're about 35 minutes south of Austin and about 25 minutes from San Marcos. Um, we're a town of artists. I love it here. I've been here for almost 10 years now, and I have a studio downtown at Spellerberg Projects Gallery, which is going to be stop number mine's 25 on the studio tour. Um, I was trying to cover up what's behind me here. Uh, so I do mainly photography and videography, but I do art installations as well. Um, I come from a line of parents of varying artistic endeavors, and I do have a special guest with me that I wanted to introduce everybody to. Um, this is the Plum Creek Monster. And in 1980 in Lockhart, we had our own cryptid named the Plum Creek Monster. He was known as a green man slash ape-like creature and known to terrorize cattle, and 911 calls actually came in about this guy. Uh,
Oh,
but I decided to remake him, and even though he looks mad, he's a vegan. He's a sweetheart, and you can get your photo done with him during the studio tour. He'll be back in the studio. Right now, I'm at my home studio, which is my living room, which is kind of a mess, but I'm gonna attempt to show you guys around a little bit. Did you guys have any questions for me? Just keep talking. Okay, should
yeah,
I?
you can just present.
Okay, okay, all right. I'm gonna present, I'm gonna show you guys my Google Slides presentation here. Sorry. Hopefully this is working. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So, in 2018, I worked for the local newspaper and I tried to start my own talk show called The Lerv Riffin Show. And I took this self-portrait and it's been on my business card ever since. And I won't tell you how I did it. But if you want to have a photo like that done, I can do that for you. This is the courthouse, the very beautiful courthouse in downtown Lockhart that I've taken pictures of a billion times. Um, This is where my studio is. It's over at Spellerberg Projects downtown. Marty Spellerberg is the guy up right here at the forefront, and he's actually been such a good friend of mine and so kind to me throughout the years. And this is after our renovation, and he made individual studios for everybody in the building. And there are quite a few. Well, no, I think there are just a handful that are still open. But he's definitely a wonderful human. We're supporting and being involved with. He amplifies a lot of really good work that's important. And so, uh, oh, okay, sorry. This is my friend Vanessa. I just wanted to say that I take film portraits. I have a Mamiya C330, and this is in her bedroom. Um, this is in my studio right now, which you'll probably see when you come to the studio tour. It's Christmas on Mars. I haven't had a chance to really change it because I've been working on a bunch of other projects since then. So it's kind of fun to go into. It's the idea that you're visiting a friend on Mars and they think that they know what humans like. So they tried to make their living room look like, yeah, cozy. Um, this is a friend of mine, Celeste Quesada, and her work. She is an
Oh, nice.
incredible philanthropist out of Austin, and also makes these beautiful clay pieces. She's just such a wonderful, kind-hearted woman, and her husband was just nominated for an Oscar. So he's with the Black Pumas, Adrian Quesada. Um, this is an installation that I did at the gallery a couple years ago. It's the interior of a spaceship. I got to take over the entire front room of the gallery and build out using found parts. Over here, I had a spaceship tunnel that I made out of an accordion with some tiny space characters inside of it and some different planets that were placed in the back. You had space, mission controls here, uh, all kinds of different options that you could go through and do, and it was really fun. We had line out the door, and kids and adult humans came and played, and it was really, really fun to see. This is part of a bigger part of my life is activism, which I learned from my parents and also just being a decent human. Um, this was when we actually had a Black Lives Matter march in Lockhart, which was a really big deal. In fact, the police even escorted us through, and the mayor walked through with us. And there were some really pertinent speeches that really carried it through. And this is a great organization here in Lockhart over here. This is Margaret Carter from Where We Thrive. I'm like a huge, huge fan of her work. She really helps to take care of the marginalized community. And so there's that. I know I'm trying to rush through it. Um, this is an example of music photography that I did. This is a still from a music video that I made. This is from the viewpoint of inside of the chest of a half robotic, half human. And that's Vanessa as she's trying to fix him because he's malfunctioning like a really bad Chuck E. Cheese robot. Um, this is a still from a music video that I did with GoGo Music out of Los Angeles. She flew in and stayed with my family for 8 days while we filmed, and just trying to show like a scope of my work. This is a photo I took that got used to recreate an album cover over here for my friend who's doing a cover album. Uh, This a friend of mine, his father passed away and left him his watch, actually multiple watches, and so I was trying to capture that in the studio over at Speller Brick Projects. Some examples of music photography that I've done. This was a couple weekends ago, and this was about a year ago here in Lockhart. This was over on South Congress. Um, this is a skate rink that was moved here
Lockhart.
in the 80s.
Yeah, we
And
had that
and I actually know people who skate. I met a man who skated there
when it used to run.
when he was a kid, and he was 100 years old. So, but it got moved over here, and apparently it's going to get moved out of town soon. But I'm glad that they saved it because they were talking about crushing it. And I showed this at Commerce Gallery, and I think one of the people who ended up seeing it got a hold of the property and are moving it. So it's important to hold the history, right? Um, this is another one of Commerce that one of my prints from like outside of Big Bend that Commerce Gallery is representing. Um, and I used that actually as a we were doing an installation. I'm with a team. This this gal and I are a music video maker production team called Susamigas Production Agency. And then all three of us together are Nonsense Incorporated. And just for South by this last year, we did this window installation at Gorin Brothers on South Congress. And if you go back to that, I ended up using marching band pants to cut out this road to have it kind of roll through. Oh, sorry. Um, roll through here and then put a car on it. So you felt like you're driving through West Texas and here's your like big rear view mirror. Um Back to I didn't mean to put her in here twice, but she totally deserves it. She's awesome. This is a photo that I took for Country Living magazine of the Leona here in Lockhart. Absolutely beautiful designs by Sarah Stacy. Um, oh, I thought there was more. I guess that's what I've got for now. Um,
That's great.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time, so I have no idea how much time I just took.
You're perfect. You're just under 10 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you
Yeah.
for San Marcos Studio Tour for putting me in there, and thank you to Marty Spillerberg for hosting my studio. He's awesome. So
Cool. And
also, I love all these. I adore all of the work that's happening here. Sorry, I'm pointing at my screen like you guys can see, but I'm like, oh, I love all this stuff. But anyway, the Plum Creek Monster and I would like to thank you. Smile. He's not one for smiling.
well, thank you again. And next up, we have Sonya Eberhart.
Good afternoon, y'all. Hello. Let me share my screen and get started. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just do a little bit of an introduction about myself. Hi guys, I'm Sonya Eberhart. I am a student at Texas State, graduating in May. Super excited. I initially started school at Texas State as just a communication design major, but through the process of getting that degree, I found painting and realized I loved it a lot. It was really fulfilling, and so I decided to pursue it also as a double major. So that's like a little bit about me. I feel like my graphic design somehow integrates into my work. I'm not exactly sure how, but definitely provides me a unique perspective in painting and things like that. Okay. So this is my first painting that I ever did that I consider in part of this body of work. Basically, an overview of it is I try to combine fabric and quilt making techniques with painting. I come from like a long generational like tradition of of quilt making in my family. My mother and my grandmother, at least I know, were strong people who did that. And it definitely was a part of my childhood. And so when I got older as a teenager, I got interested in it also. And then through the process of being in the program at Texas State, I kind of found it and wanted to combine it. So yeah, it's all about like the quilt making aspect of it and trying to figure out a way to combine those two things with paint. In a way, I feel like I'm able to kind of like connect to like the familial heritage and then also just like a broader feminist kind of point of view. And so, yeah, this is something I'm really excited about to share with you guys. I think this is another piece that I've done. This was one of my first that I did. I try to like combine the fabrics and things like that such that they make these like kind of quilted interiors. Having this kind of like interior still life is definitely, as a subject matter, is definitely something that I've been more interested in versus like figuration. I just feel like it kind of matches well with like the domesticity of like you associate with quilts, and then kind of portraying that in the paintings themselves, I think is like just goes nicely together. I'm also super interested in like obviously like light and shadow. That's definitely a large part of my paintings. I feel like it can like totally transform a room, like when you experience it in person, and like it takes something that's kind of like just an everyday experience and totally elevates it into something super atmospheric and beautiful and amazing. And so I think it naturally like kind of I'm drawn to that, and so then my paintings kind of are reflective of that too. So you'll always see some sort of strong light source and shadow in these paintings. I'm also really interested in like in these like figuring out like how the cotton pattern works kind of or works within the paintings. Um, there's so many to be found. I mean, Joanne's is like closing, but like me and her were like this for a long time when I was doing this because there's so many options to find and like experiment with. Um, and like how they all come together is like really interesting, and like how they can kind of move to the background and then also push to the front optically is definitely something that I try to look into. And a lot of these like they kind of create like a vibration, I feel like, with the patterns and stuff. In the kind of earlier part of these paintings, I was exploring these like more like kitschy fabrics, just because they reminded me a lot of the paintings that, or sorry, the quilts that I had growing up, and that kind of like 90s style pattern. But as I kind of moved through these, I liked them, but I kind of wanted to, after doing this one, I was like, okay, what if I kind of stepped back a little bit and kind of went a little bit simpler. And so now I'm kind of in this new part of my work where I'm trying to like refine a little bit. And instead of using like these super bold fabrics, use like more muted ones that I kind of feel like they're a little bit more classic in that way. So definitely kind of simplifying things. And obviously like the strong light and stuff like that. I'm also, as I kind of moved through this, I also realized I was interested in like displaying like the interior. That's really important, but also having some part of an exterior like window or something. I feel like it kind of provides like a portal into another world, which I think that like the paintings themselves are kind of portals, but like it feels like kind of extra layer to it. And also like not necessarily getting to like direct or like obvious with the exterior sections of my paintings, making them more abstracted, I think is definitely something that works a little bit better. And after I did this one, I realized I was like, they can be really simple. They can be really pulled back. And so that's kind of where I'm at with my work now. And then I can kind of get into what I'll be showing at the studio tour, which is what I've been working on in my final semester. So yeah, thinking about how to refine, how to simplify. And then I started making these, which are a lot smaller. Those previous works were, some of them were pretty big and some were like 24 by 36. And this semester I started and I was like, okay, like what happens if I can make a painting in like 2 hours? How does that change what I'm trying to say and how it's experienced and stuff like that? And I really am enjoying that part of the process because I feel like it can kind of lean even more into the abstract part of it, and like push how much can I like make one mark just be the shadow, and then the viewer can still see it and recognize what it is that they're looking at, but also not be too sure. Like I kind of want to live in that space, I think. So these are also, I have been working because they're so quick, I can make more of them faster, obviously. And I've been enjoying like putting them in this grid like formation, displaying them this way. I feel like there's multiple reasons I like to do it that way. I feel like in a way it kind of harkens back to the quilt making aspect of like block quilt makes stuff like that. But then I also am liking the way that it's like they're individual paintings, but it's also more about like the whole sensory experience, like looking at all of them at the same time, and all of these little moments put together. So I think that is definitely something that I think is what I'm moving towards now. Yeah, these are all on view for studio tour this weekend, next weekend. Just because that's my most recent work. But I think like it's interesting, like having done these and like realizing that it's like a new part of my work. It's in a way kind of feels like a return back to this very first one that I did, which is why I kind of put it at the beginning. I feel like artists, like we all kind of understand that like you do something once and then you're just constantly trying to like replicate the magic of like that first one. And I'm really excited about these just because it feels like I'm returning to the magic of this first one that I did. So yeah, that's all I have for y'all. I was a little bit nervous, so I went a little bit quick, but thank you guys so much.
I have a question, Sonya. So how big is that original one? Or like how it's hard to know like how large
Yeah.
pieces are compared to like how small are the new ones?
Yeah, so the newer ones are 11 and a half by 11 and a half. They're pretty small.
Nice.
But this one I think is like I'm looking at it right now. It's like 6 feet, 7 feet wide and like 5 feet tall.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome. All
so
of, I love how detailed you are with how even on the smaller ones. I think it's great that you ended up pairing them all together. You are so talented.
thank you
It
so much.
brings tears to my eyes.
That's sweet. But I'll move on for the next person. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next up, we have Ursula Rogers.
Audio. Yeah, there we go. Hello, everybody. Let me share my screen and share and view. All right. Cool. Can everybody see? Or no?
Looks good.
Is my screen? Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
good now.
awesome. Cool. Awesome. So, hi, my name is Ursula Rogers. I'm a photographer, primarily a photographer from Lockhart, Texas. I'm still kind of struggling with calling myself a photographer because I sort of never planned it. My background is more in psychology and political science, and my photography background consists of me being an annoying 12-year-old with a disposable camera in my friends' faces. So yeah. But so just looking at some of these photos, so this first one is actually taken in front of the White House. It's some wonderful young ladies playing double dutch in front of the White House during Trump's first presidency. And it was actually taken on the one of the anniversaries of the March on Washington as well. So like a lot of my work it tends to go into the political, whether I mean for it to or not. I just like exploring different concepts and identities, and honestly, some things that I ran away from for years, and just looking for those things within myself. So we also have this photo here. So Laurel showed you a wonderful photograph of the courthouse in Lockhart. So there was a point when there was actually a Confederate monument in front of the courthouse until a few years ago. So there were a lot of protests held and even counter protests held, some to preserve it and some to get rid of it. So you see this at the time was a high schooler who was counter protesting some people who wanted to preserve the monument. And yeah. And so, yeah. So I do a lot of freelance photography. I work with the Hayes Free Press. I work with the Caldwell Hayes Examiner and Austin Sports Journal. I don't know how I fell into sports photography. Just sort of ended up happening to me. I just love the movement and sort of the connections and things like that that it makes. Yeah. And so with the Caldwell Hayes Examiner specifically, we work a lot to tell the stories of rural communities. So its focus is in like Lockhart, Dale, Luling, Texas, as well as San Marcos, Buda, Hayes. And so we work to like show these stories of different people in the community that are often ignored and not heard. And so that's kind of where I fall into as well. So along with freelance photography, with that, I also do a lot of still photography, and I love doing theater arts photography as well. So we have a photo from a production of The Little Mermaid. The top one is it's a still from a video shoot called Mad about Alice in Wonderland. And in the bottom right corner, we have a photo from the Theater's production of, I think, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And so with the still photography, again, I just have the opportunity to kind of walk into these worlds that I've thought about, but maybe hadn't fully explored. So another example of that would be this photo. She's actually a probate lawyer who just came from her mentor's funeral. And so this project was actually a docu-series called Change Grief. So it kind of looks at the different ways we kind of don't really explore grief and how different people process it and work through that. Yeah. And so there's so many projects that I'm trying to start on my own. One, I kind of briefly mentioned is called What Y'all Know About Them Texas Boys. I'm just gonna see if I can, okay. And so with this one, it basically looks at, it's a photo essay that kind of looks at the intersection of race and gender within a Southern context. And I just want to look at the concept of Black masculinity in Texas and explain the notion of gender in a more nuanced way. Because as we know, Texas is a place where masculinity is often idealized. We live in a white patriarchal society where masculinity represents power, and often Black men are simultaneously forced into hypermasculinity while robbed of their humanity. And so, without going like giving you a long explanation, I just want to look at the humanity of Black men as well as the masculinity that's forced upon them. And with that, they're often dehumanized, and Black men's contributions to the United States and the world overall are just sort of ignored. And so I want to explore those more. And so we have a couple. Laurel might know Paris. He's a Lockhart favorite. This is one of my little cousins, Jacoby, who's often my model for this. Sorry, y'all, I'm just a little bit nervous. And so even, sort of whenever you picture a Texan, often there's like a certain notion we have of what a Texan is in our society, and it doesn't often represent the diverse bodies that live here and help to contribute to who the society is. And so with the title, like What Y'all Know About Them Texas Boys, it's from a song lyric from a song called Big Pimpin'. And even with the notion of a pimp is again often put onto a Black man. And again, seen as hypermasculine, hyper-violent, and not as a person. And so I wanted to kind of grab that title and just say, what do you really know about these people who exist and live here and are part of who we are as a fabric of our society? So just a few more. So this is from a protest. The young man in the middle, I was just, there's sort of another photo series I'm working on, just like photographing and talking to different people in the Lockhart community and who they are. So that's what that's from. And then the last photo is actually from a ball, like from like I'm not sure if you've ever seen a documentary called Paris is Burning, but it looks at kind of the New York drag ball culture within Black and Latinx bodies. And so something whenever I get the chance, I often try to make it to those and photograph those as well. And so this is actually a Second Amendment protest, but it's like specifically sort of a Black militia group. Yeah. And then just here's some more notions. So the photo with the older man holding his tie is from the Vosis Center at the University of Texas. They interviewed, and I was lucky enough to photograph some of the first African Americans that attended the University of Texas in Austin. And they just told us their stories and how they found community and where they found a sense of belonging. And then this is another photo essay series that I'm kind of in the midst of as well. It's called Take Me to the Water, and that's based on a hymnal dealing with baptismal and often baptisms. And so often, baptisms, there's a sense of renewal, new energy, but also within the United States, as we know, Black people are often not, and other people of color were not gained access to water and to and so I'm just kind of looking at that, looking at the notion of the fear of the water, working with different organizations. Like there's one called Tank Proof, who actually works to offer free swim lessons to underserved youth throughout the country. So they are based in Austin, Texas, but they also travel to Louisiana and New York and other parts of the country to make sure that those different underserved communities learn this valuable life-saving skill. Yeah, and thank you. Sorry for the ramble. I got nervous.
Girl, you
Yeah.
can ramble for the rest of my life, and I would
I was trying not to
be
so the
so thankful to
masculinity in
hear you.
Texas, I have a super long version. I was like, okay, this is too much. Let me cut this down.
I don't feel,
I was like
did she even
self-editing.
reach 10 minutes? Does she
I
still have
don't,
time? Can I ask her
maybe
some
I,
questions?
Yeah, you can
please
ask
ask
her something.
questions. Yeah, please ask questions. Sorry.
No, no, you're good. Can you back it up like a couple of slides? I think maybe 3 slides.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
to which this
Yeah,
one,
that one,
this
number
one.
9.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to say where that was.
Uh, yeah, no, it's in Austin.
It's in Austin.
So
Was
it's in
that when you
Austin.
and I were at the same?
I think it was
No,
a
it was
different
a
one.
different one.
It was so they marched from the Carver Museum off of what is it like not quite 12th Street, but in East Austin, and marched to the front of the Capitol. And so this was also taken during 2020 as well. I don't know if you were at any of, yeah, Laura, I'm sure you were at some of the protests in
I was
Austin.
at one with you.
Mhm.
Remember, you were like really close to getting
Yeah, I
sprayed.
got, so
They
yeah,
gassed. Sorry, go ahead. You
oh,
can
I
tell.
did. No, I did. I did get gassed. Yeah, so this is like a shout out to the camera brand Pentax because it still works even after being gassed and shot and all sorts of things. I shot it with bean bags, all sorts of things like that. Yeah, so this was taken because there's I forgot. I don't want to say I won't say the name of the group, but they are for Second Amendment rights for Black people specifically and about arming ourselves and things like that. I personally am not a gun person, but I understand the importance of them being photographed and this event being documented. And again, this is like another part of that scary Black man, but really is just trying to ultimately, it's about trying to protect yourselves and things like that.
Ursula, do you mind if I tell them what happened with the parking
Oh, yeah,
garage?
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
So we were down below the parking garage at the City of Austin Police Department, and there were police officers who were on the second floor of the parking garage and completely peaceful protesters. Some of the white people there were stirring things up, which it
Mhm.
was like I felt like maybe they were trying to make things worse. But they were on the second floor and just throwing tear gas down on people. Actually, I think they were like spraying it down on people. And that was when I ran into you and you were like, "Is that
Mhm.
why
There's
is
a point
it
when they were just
bugging me
spraying and all
so
you can see was
bad?"
mist.
It was a mist, but it was definitely like
It
not
was.
fair in
It
any
was
way,
just
shape, or
completely
form.
loud.
Sorry, I hope that we're allowed to talk
Well,
about
that
this.
even happens. No, no, and well, even with so the photo I took, the one at the beginning of the girls, I think in general everything went pretty smoothly. But then the next day, people were kind of protesting in front of the church that's on what is not anymore Black Lives Matter. What was it called? Black Lives Matter. I
Boulevard.
forget if it was Square. I forget the name of it. So I didn't put any of the protest photos in here, but my first kind of solo exhibition was basically called Resistance Is. And so I was looking at different notions of protest and resistance. So there are kind of what you expect to see in protest photography. So there were people getting sprayed with tear gas. There was people holding their fist up. Because that's part of, that's what we see often when we see protest. But then on the last wall, it was looking at other types of protests. So that's where you get into like pe- people that are that is from I think like a TPPA march in New Zealand. So it was like one of the biggest rallies or protests in New Zealand up until I think what was that like 2017 or 2018. And so they were basically the indigenous people there knew that a lot of their rights and water rights were going to be taken away. So it was just like this huge, beautiful moment of all these people connected to fight the power. But I also with resisting, I like to show joy. That's why you'll see like so this photo on the right of this man. This is also taken at a ball. I think it was taken at the first official like ball they had in for South by Southwest. So like with resistance, of course there is the literal fighting, but I think there also has to be joy because what are you fighting for? More basically like why am I here? What am I doing here? I need to be able to hold these two things within myself, and recognize that we need to be here and why we need to be here, but yeah. If are there any more questions? I know I tend to speak quickly whenever I'm nervous, so just let me know if you
We're
have
going to table the
any
questions
questions
for
about
right now,
anything.
just so we can
Yeah,
do
I got you.
our
I
last
got you. Yeah,
presentation,
that's
then we
cool.
can all come back together. But thank you.
Yeah, you did great, Ursula.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you're awesome.
And let me stop my share.
And our last presenter is Jiya Shah.
Hi. Let me just start screen sharing. Hi. So a little bit of an introduction. My name is Jiya. I am Indian. I'm a painter. I moved to Texas around, I'd say the fourth grade. And I have a very similar story to Sonya actually. Um, but I started studying at Texas State as a communication design major. Um, but I've been in love with painting since I was like 4. And around my second year, so the beginning of this year, I decided I have to double major. I can't just do design classes. So I started double majoring in painting. Um, and I want to talk a little bit about where I am on my art journey. Um, oh, let me go back. And I think up until a few years ago, I was very focused on skill building, um, and really, um, what goes under skill building is like figure drawing, painting from life, drawing from life, focus on like still lives. But very recently, I'd say I've been trying to find more of a voice through art, and really figuring out what I want to say through art, and really consciously trying to make bolder choices through painting. Um, and I guess I'm in the process of being more of me through art, um, and learning how I can put my personality, thoughts, beliefs back into my work and stay true to myself. Especially taking classes where you're being told constantly what is right and what is wrong. I recently had a conversation with a professor about classes and how I feel like people in classes have a lot of expectations of my work. And I feel like I won't be able to meet those expectations and stay true to myself. So I want to share something that he told me. And he said, you have to learn to be 105% more authentically yourself and be really loud and confident in who you are as an artist. Um, so that's that. And one of the natural tendencies I tend to have in painting is really understanding and trying to portray sense of silence and quietness of daily life. Because I feel like daily life is just filled with so much noise. I mean, I can open up my phone right now, go to Insta, and it's filled with noise, and just everything around us right now. So I really just want to convey that peace and silence of daily life that a lot of people might not appreciate. So this painting is called Ghost. It was made in my first year of college when I was extremely homesick. I was ready to pack my bags and transfer to a college closer to home, just because I felt super uninspired. And again, I was taking all design classes, and as much as I love design, I need a balance between that and painting. And during the process of this, we had a project in class, and everybody was sharing some of our video works. Um, and I was brought to tears because I was so inspired by everybody. So the images in the background are all people that are strangers technically, but are from that class, and these are stills from those videos. And it's almost sort of saying that like um I and my work are very layered of all these moments of inspiration that I have. This is some of the process of making it, just a lot of layering and building up the canvas. This painting is called Perceived. Um, I was inspired by Donatello's Saint Mark statue. In terms of composition and also this idea of being on view. Um, During this time, I felt like I was being judged a lot, especially because I am Indian, and some of the Indian people I met on campus um, would look at the way I dressed and the fact that I was an artist and judge me in a weird way. And this painting isn't supposed to be like a bad commentary on like observe or being judged, but more of a commentary on like the observation that people are judged. I do the same. I think it's very human, but I guess the figure on the left side is more the way strangers might see me as a very physical, the way I dress, and not really for myself. But the figure on the right, I would say, is more of how people close to me would see me as just an artist. And the figures on the bottom are also some of really tiny moments from life that I would say are um, almost like saying that I'm not just an artist and I'm not just what I wear and like the way I show myself. Yeah, this is a little bit of the detail of this painting and some of the process. I use spray paint for the background, but the stencil was made from a laser cutter, which I thought was a really cool process. This painting is called Never Ending. As I said, I really love showing like some of these quiet moments of life. I think there can be a discussion on whether this painting is more about boredom or um, more of like a calm feeling. But um, I'd say is just I am very grateful when I get a chance to just do my daily chores and just not think about things, and just go through life. After a really long and chaotic day, I just don't want to think about anything and just be at peace. Um, but I'm also very interested in interior spaces, because it feels very intimate. And I guess when I said like I'm trying to be more true to myself, this is one way of trying to connect with the viewer by showing them just like moments of my life that I know everybody can connect to and relate to. This is a painting I'm working on right now for a class project. And this is another one where I just felt like I was being pushed in directions that I might not want to go in, especially in terms of color, where I was being told I need to use more saturated colors. And I tried, but I just feel like as a painter, I am very quiet. And not just in terms of personality, but as a painter, my works tend to be a little bit more quiet. But I think that adds to the feeling of intimacy. Um, but I'm trying to be more me. These are some images from my sketchbook. I wanted to share some of these because I feel like they're a huge part of my process as an artist. Um, and the images I'm showing are a lot more beautiful than my sketchbook actually is. It's actually just filled with mess. Um, but it's just some of the pages that I really liked. Um, but this is my sketchbook. It's really tiny. Um, but I love drawing in like super tiny pages. Um, and it's less about practice, but also a lot about documentation. I have a lot of writings in here. I don't know if you can see that. And also like um, some were drawing from life, where this one was a little bit of a moment. I also have like cutouts from magazines. Um, I think it's a huge part of my process. I guess ideation process as well. This is, I think, where most of my paintings start. Um, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Beautiful work.
thank you.
Loved it. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for your presentations. And now we'll, in the last kind of moments before it hits one, we'll open up the floor for any questions or comments. Viewers who are joining us, you're welcome to put any questions in the chat as well, and I can read them out if you don't feel like speaking up. But yes, I thought they were all really great, and I think, it was a nice conversation that we had going on. So yeah, I'll just leave it open for any questions at this time.
Question for everybody. I'm wondering how you guys go about the process of like creating works, and I mean in terms of ideas and like the beginning stages of like how do I come up with what I want to do next? I'd love to know how everybody goes about it.
Mm.
I feel like in like a context of school, it's really nice because you can kind of like make a work and then be like, okay, what's working and what's not working? And like, how do I replicate the success of the previous one and like shed the thing that didn't work necessarily? So at least in terms of like getting a BFA, that's been my experience moving through like the different painting classes is like, okay, every single painting is like there's something new about it or something interesting or something different that's responding to the previous one. And I think like having like a body of work that you're working on too is like helpful in that because it's like, okay, here's this core idea that I'm dealing with, that I'm engaging with, and like these are the methods and the materials. It's like, how do I like keep true to that too? Um, I don't know. It's different for everyone, but I feel like that's been my experience.
Mhm.
I didn't go to school for art, but uh, I just have ongoing art projects all around me, and the main thing is to just keep moving forward, keep finding a reason to make art, and I change mediums all the time. I cannot stick with one. I mean, photography and videography are always going to be like my constant, but like my daughter and I like needle felt and we do like I just made this started making this cat head last night. Um and I'm going to be teaching a needle felting class here in town pretty soon. Because I took one needle felting class and then I fell completely in love with it. So I think trying different forms of art and seeing like what makes your hands feel happy or what makes your brain feel happy at the same time, like is a really great and important goal. I've, needle felted this ridiculous situation here on the wall and like this is my daughter and I, we make it, I want to show you all the clay stuff. It's just ridiculous what we have all around the house. But also if I'm ever feeling like I'm not sure how, what my motivation is, then I have a whole slew of books. And forgive me for being, you know, for making everything rainbow on my shelf, but it helps me pick out like, okay, what is, what do I want to know about today? Or how do I want to be motivated today? And I've got books about all about the stars, and it's got like really strange illustrations from, I don't know, maybe the 50s, strange ideas of what the stars were like back then. And, I yeah, try to keep uh things like important in my brain, causes that matter, but also enough whimsy so that I don't go insane. And I can still be like a good mom and chill out with my kid. So
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Like for me, so I didn't go to school for art either. I guess my artistic background is probably more in music. Like I was obviously in band in school, but then I also played in brass bands and different orchestras throughout my 20s and the early part of my 30s. Um, so I think that's probably why I have music titles for my projects as well. I can't help myself. But I think some of it is just kind of like looking deeper into myself. Like a lot of the times, like I freelance quite a bit. So oftentimes I'm doing other people's projects or what other people want to do. And I realize that maybe I should also use things that I might want to say or have to say, and to come up with. And sometimes it is like a song title that it will, inspire like, that could work or something. Let me see what I have, or, I don't really have a process. I think I'm still trying to figure my process out because I'm still trying to like come to the terms that I might be an artist. So, and I also recently like was so I'm
You're
still
a
coming to
such
terms
an
with that
artist.
concept. Yeah, my background is in politics and psychology, so I'm still like, but yeah, so like and I switch mediums. When I was younger, I switched mediums all the time. I'd go between like writing and drawing. And I haven't played music in a few years, but I recently acquired a banjo, and then I also have like a trombone or trumpet and a tuba. Um, so I think it's just figuring out like what's important to me and what I enjoy and what at this point what I actually want to talk about, or some of the projects that I've worked on have inspired me or sparked something in me. And I'm like, oh, maybe there's something there and let me explore it and see what I come up with. So yeah.
Thank you. That was really nice.
Yeah, I feel like something I've been talking about with friends and in classes and stuff like that is like being an artist, at least for me, is like being hyper aware of like what you
Mhm.
see and experience every day,
Mhm.
and kind of like mining your life for like things to pull from,
Yeah.
because art is always like always more authentic when it comes from like something personal, either experienced or whatever. So you kind of have to like always be on the lookout for inspiration and like in your everyday, um, to like find what your next project is. You know what I mean? You never know where it'll come from. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good question, and I think some really good perspectives there. I also want to note that it was kind of interesting that your professor, your painting professor, was pushing you to do like hyper, like saturated, super colorful works because I feel like um, it's some of your more successful pieces were the more like subdued and like lighter pieces that also feel more true to you as well. So honestly, I would kind of lean into that and maybe like go in the opposite direction. But I'm also not sure if that was like a painting assignment or anything. But I can kind of feel your authenticity more, especially in the first piece you showed there. Um, but yeah, I think that was a good question, Gia. I actually kind of have a question for Laurel. I was wondering if you were going to continue working with the Plum Creek monster, if you were thinking of staging the monster anywhere. I know you mentioned that you were going to take photographs of people with it during the tour, so I'm kind of interested in any other lives that the monster might live in.
So he can go anywhere. I mean, I just stole him from my studio this morning. Like, there was a man behind me parked out back, and I was like carrying he's a full mannequin man. He's a full man. But what I like to do is I have I get these Instax photos of people with the monster. And people are like, "Hey, he's our buddy," or there's some dogs with him. Um, that was, I think, during the last studio tour. But yeah, he can move around. I want him to, forever be a legend. He has his own Instagram, and I like to think that he's just a misunderstood creature. Um, and he makes me really happy. I've been knowing about him for probably 7 years now since I moved. I moved here 10 years ago. And I've done interviews with people who took the 911 calls. Like it's just, it's he's 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 silly, but it's that balance between like trying to make sure that we do things that count and then also making sure that we bring levity to life. So and I think that he's a good way to do it.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of appreciated when he was behind you and kind of reminded me of like the movie Insidious a little bit because there's like a jump scare scene where,
It was like,
yeah.
bam. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare anybody. He is a sweetheart.
Nice. Well, we're a couple of minutes to one, and I just want to see if there's any last minute questions before we break for the day. Thought, there's some really good feedback in the chat, and it was really great to hear about everybody's work and their processes as well as their backgrounds too. Um, I also want to plug really quick, other than the studio tour happening this weekend, we have some events going on at Women in Their Work too. Hope that y'all can also make the trip from San Marcos to Austin. We've got a solo exhibition up right now. It's Ran Ran fans, Inhale the Interruption, and it's open through May 8th. And then we also have an incense making workshop as a part of the programming, and that's going to be not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So you can find more information about what's going on at Women in Work on our website. And I've also dropped in everyone's social media, their stop numbers, as well as websites in the chat too, if anybody watching would like to follow up with these wonderful artists. But at that point, I think it's one now. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, as well as to our presenters. Hope that y'all have a great San Marcos studio tour, getting lots of traffic through your studios, and excited to see what else you guys have working on in the future.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I
everyone.
can't wait to see you come out.
Cool. Well,
Great job, ladies.
yes. Thank you.
Thanks.